Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin, sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing athletic training equipment since 1932, helping you dominate with fundamentals.
Welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton. Another great episode for you. Got a special guest tonight, Mr. PJ Katz. But before we get going, I want to thank our sponsor, Team Builder, the #1 software for strength and conditioning. But yeah, Coach Katz, man, he's spent the last 14 years at Brookwood High School. Started out with, coaching wide receivers and safeties, and in the last 4 years, he's been the offensive coordinator. So excited to pick his brain and cross the Georgia line. Let's get a Georgia coach on here, and they arguably have one of the best football teams in college football, and they have really good high school football. So excited to have Coach on here.
Oh man, so today, we're going to be going through Coach's journey in football, how he got started. We're going to talk a little about the off season with him, his development philosophy and his offensive philosophy as well. And then at the end, we always go through our rapid fire 2-minute drill, which we're always excited about. So Coach, glad to have you on, man. It's an honor. We've wanted to get you on since we started this thing. So talk to us a little bit about why you got into coaching.
Yeah, well, before I do that, Coach, man, thank you guys for having me on here. You guys are doing an awesome job with this podcast, and it's exciting to see, something kind of start from an idea with you guys to what it's becoming. And with me personally, my journey, starts all the way back from a 7-year-old, playing football and just loving being around my friends and loving playing the game, loving competing. And that led me into a okay high school career. We lost in the state championship, and then I went on to play at Valdosta State University and was fortunate enough to win a national championship down there and make a lot of great friends and connections. And while I was there, I wasn't always the guy who was going to play every down. So, I really fell in love with practice and the opportunities afforded me by being a part of the team and learning and studying. And that's when I kind of fell in love with, man, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. I want to be a coach. I don't know how that's going to look or where it's going to start or where it's going to end, but that's what we're going to do. And that led me back to Brookwood, where I was actually a player and grew up. And I was there, like you said, for 14 years, and the last 4 as OC, last 6 overall as an OC there, as a co-OC for 2 years. And, I'm excited to see where the journey takes me now, headed over to Alpharetta.
Man, that's exciting. Coach, when you were at Valdosta, what were they running? Were you an offensive player?
I was a slot receiver, played a little bit outside as well. We were air raid. Chris Hatcher was my coach my first year.
Okay.
And then after he left and he told us how to go get Ty a new pair of shoes. Ty's his son, who's now an analyst at Georgia. He left and Coach Dean took over. And so Coach Dean was my head coach for the next 4 years. So spent 5 wonderful years down there in Blazer Nation, and wouldn't have traded that experience for anything.
Have they always been air raid since Mummy? I mean, that's been a long time ago. I'm sure they don't ever want to get rid of that.
That's the foundations, Ace 92 switch, early 91. I mean, I'm coming from a under center, mainly 21 personnel offense in high school. We're running the plays in off the sideline to our first day of practice. I'm wearing a wristband with a board that had color, number, and the color meant this, and the color meant that, and the number meant this. And I'm just like, what is going on here? But we figured it out.
No doubt. That's really cool. So who are some of your early mentors? You mentioned Coach Hatcher, but are there other coaches in your career that have really poured into you that you now take to your players?
Yeah, I mean, man, that list, luckily for, I think all of us who are in this for the right reasons, is extremely long. In college myself, Reed L. Anthony was my position coach for a couple years. I had a player, Tyler Arndt. He's now the head coach of North Oconee, who just went 15-0 and won the state championship over here. He became my coach after being a teammate of mine. Defensive coordinator, Seth Wallace at VSU. I know I wasn't a defensive player, but I had a great connection with him, and he kind of taught me a lot about how to handle people and situations. And then, Earl Chambers, there's so many guys from college that had such an impact on me. And of course, your high school guys, right? Your high school guys is what make you fall in love with the game. My head coach, Coach Mark Cruz, my offensive coordinator at the time, Coach Bill Shields, our DB coach, who I'm still very close with, play golf with all the time, Coach Murray Bell. There's just so many guys. Philip Jones, who was my head coach at Brookwood for the last 10 years. The list goes on and on and on. And it's all because those guys, every single one of them is relationship based. That's what all this is about, right? If we can't pull up into a parking deck with, a 12-pack ice cold waters and just hang out with each other, then we've totally missed why we're in coaching. And every single one of those guys I can do that with. And that to me means a lot.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Those, just the relationships, and I've coached with people that I haven't coached with in 8 or 9 years, but we follow each other on the socials. We, Gano, so D-line coach at York, my first 3 years coaching, man, my dad bought a cruise for us. We're on the cruise, and I run straight into Gano day one.
Was he still calling Bear? Like,
oh
Bear,
yeah,
Bear,
man.
Bear.
Oh yeah, man. So, and what's funny is he's actually coming next week to do some work at the school for us with
That's
his
awesome.
little side business. So it's just those relationships, man. And coach, you're a Georgia boy, and I know what kind of led you to want to be an offensive coach, because at some point in time you have to choose. It's
Right.
like, you played offense, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I always knew, played quarterback as a little leaguer, played running back, played receiver, played some DB, 135 pounds soaking wet. It wasn't going to really strike fear in anybody's heart on the defensive side, right? So kind of just fell in love with the offensive side. And then in college, really, to be honest with you, there's a day, all right, where it's a summer practice. And as you know, coaches can't be around, right? So we're off on the field. They give us a script and we run through the script. And it was my turn to be out of the rotation and the script was over. So I was just like, we were doing a red zone period. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to call the plays and signal them in. So I just sat over there and kind of signaled them in, dressed a few things up with how I thought we could attack coverages right on the fly. And that day on North Campus at VSU was one of the days I was like, all right, maybe I can do this, right? Take all this knowledge and push it back out. So that was kind of the tipping point, right? And then how I gained back to Brookwood and back down this journey. I mean, you never know where the road's going to take you, right? It's just always trying to make sure that you're making the best decision that you have in front of you, and then kind of see what shakes from there. And as I got into coaching offense as a young coach first, and then I spent a year on defense, I learned how much I don't know. Right. Go over to safeties and we're talking about poach and fist and palms and check and rob 3 and fit the backside C. Now we're going to fit B because we're doing this and that. And I'm like, damn, guys, just tackle the guy with the ball. You know what I mean? So
it's
I
not
say
just
that
pursuit drill every day. Like,
no, it's not. It's so much more than that. Now, I was fortunate enough. One of my safeties, when I coach safeties, he's in the league right now with the Chargers, Kendall Williamson. So, and I had another one, Jameson Collier, go to Ohio. So, I mean, I coached. Our 2 starters were highly intelligent, highly physical, smart football players. So, for that year, I was, as the kids say, I was blessed, right? So, I did that, and then when I came back, I worked with a guy named Trip Allen. Tripp is a very famous coach here in the Georgia high school circles. There's an assistant coach of the year award in Cobb County that's named after him. So his dad was a Brookwood coach, and so Tripp and I got really, really close, and he influenced me about keeping it simple and understanding. Take what you learned on defense, put that into the offensive mode. If you teach them too much, they won't know anything. And then his dad had a real famous quote that builds on that relationship thing, right? Is like, if you see your teammate or your former coach in 8, 9, 10 years and you don't give them a hug right away, you miss something. And that's what I strive for every day.
Yeah, so you're an offensive guy. What shaped your philosophy on offense? I know you're air raid. I mean, you said 21 personnel in high school, air raid in college. Talk to us a little bit about what shaped that for you currently.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it all goes back to the stereotypical quote of just get your best players the ball, right? And in high school, with as we're not supposed to do, right? Don't recruit. You can't build your team how you want to build it. I just kind of figure out like, all right, who's our best players and how do we get them the football over and over and over again while having some deception to what we're trying to do. And luckily, the knowledge bank, right? The menu, whatever you want to call it, is massive because I have gone from the 21 personnel into the air raid 10 personnel, Chris Hatcher, David Dean, throw the ball around, maybe getting 20P once in a while, right? Which ironically, the year we won the Natty, we were really good at running the football and we were really good on defense and we were the air raid, right? So as I become a coordinator, it's like, all right, where's my best pieces? and how do we make that fit, right? And then how do we put lipstick on the pig and kind of hide some things?
And that's the key in high school, I think. It could look different every single year, depending on your personnel, like you said. And so currently you've adapted, but early on, was it difficult for you to try to do that? I mean, I know as young coaches, we're always like, man, I want to kind of have this cookie cutter mentality. Did you experience that too? And then
Oh
how has
man,
it evolved now?
it's just at the beginning of it, and even to this day, like you're like, I got my process, I know how things fit, but then you like throw your own wrench in the plans, right? How do I do this better? How does this fit that if I want to do this? And it becomes a thing where we got to always go back to, okay, what can the players do fast and what do they do well,
Mm.
right? So in 21, when I had Dylan Lonergan at quarterback, who's now at Boston College, went to Bama, was Saban's last quarterback recruit at Bama, we threw the ball around a bunch. Now, we're a really good running team as well. We had a really good offensive line, good tight ends, good running backs, but we RPO'd every call. There was an RPO to it. And why? Because he would make the right decision like 98% of the time. So I felt comfortable with that. Where, we ended up leading the state in passing minus the private school leagues who had some pretty crazy numbers. And then last year, we had the highest single rusher in the history of the state of Georgia high school football in the highest classification. So our tailback Braden Tyson set the record for 6A football for the most rushing yards in the season.
Wow.
So
how many yards was that?
Oh God, like 3,500 plus. It was some ridiculous number. So I think he was averaging 232 yards a game over 11 games, and that was only on 22 carries. So it wasn't like
I was gonna say like you're
the days of
carries a game.
35, 40 carries. We were still spreading it around and not trying to kill the kid, and so I kind of. And again, it's who you coach with, right? Like that's not all me. That's the offensive line coach, Zach Underwood. It's our tight ends coach at the time, Lance Finley. It's our running back coach, Coach William Lee, right? It's everybody, Coach Allison at receivers. All those pieces make that happen. But yes, I do think, we have become multiple enough in whatever you want to call our system to 10P, 11P, 12, 21, 20, whatever the kids do well. And that's what I'm going through right now at Alpharetta. I don't know what we can do great yet, right? I got to figure that out. So we're going to kind of sprinkle some things in, see what sticks, and then we're just going to build on that.
Sure. And I think, the more we do this podcast, the more we talk about these things with different coaches, I think if I ever go back to calling offense, the number one thing when we're evaluating personnel every year, because, with our arsenal, our toolbox, I feel like, speaking for Jamie and I, because Coach, I know a little bit about you, but it's, we have the ability to run the air raid concepts where we release 5. We have the ability to keep 7 in for protection. We have the ability to go all the way from 10P all the way to 21P. So I think from now on, I'm going to start looking at it inside out. Let's see what linemen we have first. What are the linemen we have? Because the last school we were at, and I didn't call it, my buddy called the offense, but we would talk a lot. Like we did not have the linemen. We had 190-pound guys who didn't play other positions, so they played offensive line. So we went 4 open, throw the ball around, because that was the only way we're going to be able to get it to our athletes in space. But I think moving forward, I'm going to start with the guys up front. And I think the next guy I'm going to move to is the trigger man. Do we have a quarterback? And then from there, shape it more is kind of what I've learned talking to several coaches over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%, because if the guys up front can't do what you're asking them to do, all this other stuff you can draw is just a hill of beans, right? You ain't going to ever get nothing off. You're not going to move the ball. You're going to get behind on first down. So whatever those hogs up front do well is what we want to do. And then it builds to, okay, can the Q handle 5-man out, right? Does he need 6-man so he's always feeling like he's protected, right? Does he have the arm to push the 7-man stuff down the field? Do you have some guy who can take that off the top? So you're 100% right, Coach Martin. It all starts with those dudes up front, your quarterback, and then spread it from there. And like last year, Brookwood, we were a huge gap team, right? Why were we better at gap than zone? I mean, we were big, we were physical, we could move at guard. So I mean, pulling was no problem, but we ran some outside zone, a little bit of duo, a little bit inside zone, but sometimes the kids, like, they just kind of latch on to certain concepts and they love them. So it's like they were begging for those calls. So let's just keep doing that. And again, dress it up to hide it. And here we go. So, we're Dylan's year, 21, which was our most productive year on offense from a running and passing perspective, we did every concept really well. I mean, we're inside zone read, zone triple, pin and pull, counter, power, under center, kick out. We were doing it all. And that's a credit to the kids. Here's the toolbox, and if you can keep doing it, let's keep the tools in there. Yep. If you can't, let's pull out what you're really good at and build off that.
Well, being one of those big guys up front and coaching them for so long, whatever they believe in, you better do. Because if they don't believe in it, like I have seen coaches scheme and call a perfect play, let's say zone, and it not work. But then they call power into a defense that should not work, and it does because the kids believe in it so much. But it's just whatever those big guys believe in, stick with it. Because even at York in 18, it was like that. Them guys love power and buck sweep. We try to run outsides on no coach called buck. Like I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Like they're over there to the sideline signaling the play to me. To the play caller, like keep running it.
Yeah,
happened last year. We ran buck sweep. We were playing Ashbrook, and we really weren't running the ball very well in the first half. And then our offensive line coach Kevin Cruz said, "Man, why don't we try like buck sweep?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, good idea."
Yeah, let's do what the kids
like,
love.
Keep doing it. And so the kid, I mean, it's definitely what the kids want to do and like, and being open to that too, I think is critical. Like, don't be so, hey man, we're going to run this by God, no, you gotta be able to adapt, and then also kind of feed off the kids a little bit too. Good point, coach.
Yeah. I mean, calling the perfect play is like once a game, right? You're calling plays that the kids feel comfortable with. I mean, my guard last year, we run pin and pull, and he pulls and he kicks the tight 9, and it's like a train wreck happens. The kid gets hurt. We gain like 8-9 yards. There's a little bit of chitter chatter going back and forth. And guess what we ran on the next play? The same thing, right? Put a different motion with it and said, all right, next one up, you go take that on, right? Don't overcomplicate this thing sometimes. And I have to remind myself that, right? But listen to your kids, especially if they've earned the right to be listened to, right? They do all the little things right, show up on time, work hard, all the things we ask them to do. If they got an idea, again, this ain't rocket science. We're not doing brain surgery here. let's get the good kids the ball, and let's listen to the best position group in football. Like, I don't care what anybody 100%. Says. Offensive linemen are God's gift to us football coaches. Like, they are the best guys to be around. They work the hardest. Like, you can't tell me that all the safeties. No. Every receiver wants the ball more. Every running back wants the ball more. Every quarterback wants to throw more. But you know what the offensive line want to do? What's the call, coach?
Yep.
What's the call?
And they serve. They're there to serve. They're the only ones that I think. I don't know, Dustin. Did you say that they're the only position, like in all of sports, that are there to primarily serve everybody else?
Maybe.
You probably did. You probably did.
But I'll claim that because that's good. That's good. I like that.
That's a good. Hey, quote that. Put that on a T-shirt.
I did not come up with that one at all.
They're the most fun to hear mic'd up too. I love watching a mic'd up OL. They are trolling the defensive linemen
100%.
and giggling and having fun. The best position group.
Oh yeah, man. There's mentally something, chemically wise, that's off on those dudes that I just absolutely love. Right? I mean,
people, man.
They go into a game knowing like nobody's really watching them. Even on a sack, hardly ever do they blame the O-line. It's like, quarterback throw the ball, receiver catch it, and, so they're the best, man. I like those guys.
You can tell when they got a little confidence because they get that little giddy up when they're going to the line. You're like, all right, we're gonna be all right here.
The best is in practice, the fat man shuffle. They're going from drill to making it look like they're running. Like, you guys ain't running.
They take pride in that. They love it. They will stop and ask me, Coach, is my shuffle all right, or do I need to pick it up a little bit?
Just a little bit, buddy.
And talk about no shame. I get tired of seeing guts out at practice. They'll tuck their undershirt under. I'm like,
I give them a little bit of pop. I give them a little pop right there on the belly.
That's awesome. Man. That's great.
Well, Coach, Dustin, you want to talk a little about team builder?
Yeah, I think this is a great time. We all know that strength and conditioning can be the difference between a good season and a great season. Team Builder helps coaches design and manage training programs that deliver real results, help building stronger, faster, and more prepared athletes. If you're serious about building a championship culture, click the link in our show notes for a free 30-day trial using the promo code CoachSpeak.
Awesome. Well, this takes us into our next segment. We're going to be talking about offensive identity and scheme breakdown with Coach Katz. So, let's talk a little bit about your scheme and how you kind of, I know we've kind of brushed over it a little bit, but do you define your offensive scheme? And that may be year to year, but how do you define it?
Yeah, I mean, again, you got to go back to the statement that we're going to figure out, number one, who our best players are and how we can get them the ball and what do they do well, right? And then after we figure that out, everything kind of builds on top of it from and I'm talking best players in terms of like linemen too, right? So, just for example, kind of going back retrospective a little bit, right? Like last year, really good gap team. Okay. We just didn't really hammer home zone, weren't great at it. It's a really good gap team. So we figured out how many different ways can we run pin and pull, how many formations, motion shifts just to cover up pin and pull, right? Where go back to 21, it didn't matter what the run concept was. I wasn't going to motion very much. I wasn't going to shift very much. We were going to get lined up, make the call, throw the RPO tag on, and let the quarterback make us right. So, the identity, it's hard to say, you can't put a slide up and say, I'm an 11P team who's going to do this and this, right? Yes, we're always going to use a tight end in some instance. We're going to attach a tight end. We're going to have a sniffer. If we got two tight ends, they're both going to play, right? If we got two tailbacks, they're both going to play. So, that identity is definitely, it morphs as we kind of go through figuring out who we are. And that comes from, what I've been in, where I feel like I can grab from different kind of times in my life and push that out to this team.
Yeah. So what's been good for you no matter what your personnel has been? Has there been like some staples in your offense that you're just like, man, every year we've been really good at these?
Yeah. So, gap scheme wise, counters always seem to be really good for us. Again, I've had some great coaches around me and great players who've been able to execute it. Counter's been good, pin and pull, buck sweep, whatever, that argument. Is it pin and pull? Is it buck sweep? It's a blocking down and two pullers. Like, let's go, guys.
Yeah.
And then passing wise, I laugh at this statement, but, Coach Allen and I kind of talked about this, but like a good old post wheel will get them every time, right? Now, I know it doesn't work every time, but man, post wheels and variations of double post wheel, double post cross, right? Those kind of things that are easy for the quarterback to identify coverage. Where am I looking? 1, 2, 3, right? Every single year, man, we are killing folks with just pretty much basic post wheel, right? Post wheel check down. Nothing fancy, but gets the job done. So we start with post wheel to the boundary always, which I know in high school football is like, why, that's a small area. Well, it is, but it allows me to put right in front of the quarterback what I want him looking at on day one, right? And so if you make it very elementary, yes, your post wheel check down, right? Then if you build on top of that, what you really need them to know is, all right, where's my safety structure? Who's my hash player, right? We call it a second level sideline read. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this, but we're kind of Ohio State-ish with our buckets, right? I'm not going to say that post wheel is a progression play, right? I'm not going to say that, hitch is a quick game play. Like, what does that mean? Well, that means the drop, right? That's normally what you're talking about. So for me, when you're talking about second level sideline reads and we're talking about running our post wheel families, right? Normally we're going to go 3 no hitch. Okay. If it's double post wheel, now the quarterback knows I'm probably going to have to take that 3 with a hitch. Right? Double post cross. Now I'm taking 3 with a gather, which is, hitch, and I might have to gather while I let things clear. So we're starting with the second level sideline. We're starting with that safety. If it's to the boundary, right, we're looking at the near safety on the hash. Okay. He's who we're staring at, right? If he stays on the hash, the post is dead. Okay. Theoretically speaking, right? So now I'm peeking at my wheel. What did the corner do? Did he squeeze on the post too much and I got the wheel? Did he fall off in quarters and take the wheel and pass it off? Now I got to come to my check down, right? So try to keep it really easy on day one. And then we can progress to the field and add 2 posts with a wheel, 2 posts with a cross with a check down, right? So just finding ways where to the quarterback, if it's double post to the field, well, guess what? You're still looking at the near safety. Now it's the field safety, right? So I'm peeking at him to the corner, to the wheel, to the check down. Okay. So it's all about, just to me, giving the quarterback mentally less to think about, right? These kids just go through 8 hours of school, right? These ain't college kids or NFL kids, right? We can't have them in a meeting room all day to throw all this crazy if-thens at them. Okay. How can I make it simple yet complicated to the defense and keep him on rhythm with what he's looking at?
I like what you talk about with if-thens. I think Spencer Carroll told me, and he's an R4 guy, he says, get rid of the if-thens, and then you replace that with it's this unless.
Correct.
And I really
Yep.
like that. And that's how I've talked to my quarterbacks too. Like it's like in baseball. I play baseball and it's like I'm going after this fastball in this particular location, especially early in the count, unless it's not like I'm swinging the bat at this fastball unless it's not a fastball.
Right.
And I think that kind of stuff just gets them in the mind of like on my 3-step rhythm, I'm banging this if it's open. If it's not, then I'm going to the wheel and then I'm going to my check down. I love that. Very, very similar to what we do. And I like the timing with the drops.
Coach, so if you're teaching the post well and the boundary with the check down, what do you have going onto the field on like a day one install? And is it relevant at all? Is it like a pre-snap peak, anything, or talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on it. It's a typical pre-snap peak, right? So our day one install is going to be a 6-yard hitch, right? If it's there, it's the gift, take it, right? I know we called this fancy concept to the boundary. If they're going to give us gifts, we're going to take gifts every single time, right? Gifts are free. Gifts keep the ball moving. Let's rock and roll, right? And then from there, I start to let the quarterback start to have choice over there, right? What's your field safety doing? Is he leaning hard to the boundary? What's the corner's alignment? Where's the grass? Do we need to check that guy to a bang? Because he's never going to get in the way of the boundary post, right? High school hashes, we're so wide. He can run a post and he can run a bang A and we're fine. So I'll give the quarterback the access to take that, right? But like I tell him, you go picking over there and you go throwing over there, you better be right, right? Because again, we've built something that we feel is almost bulletproof over here to the boundary with the posts, your wheels, your check downs. But if you like it, let's take it, right? I don't want to handcuff you. But here's kind of your menu of what you can do out there. Let's rock and roll. So we're going to pre-snap, and then we're coming back to the boundary through our stuff. And now I'm always going to play fake. Not always, I shouldn't say that. Let's say 80% of the time, we're going to have some sort of run action with a post wheel. That way the safety is getting tackle low hat, maybe a guard pulling, and now all of a sudden he's got post wheel in his face. We don't do much just standard, hey, here we go, catch, snap, drop back, and throw a post. We want to give a little more eye candy than that. We just had a lot of success. And another thing too, guys, that I freaking love with it is trick plays. We murder people on trick plays off post wheel. Whether you're running a flea flicker, reverse, toss back to the quarterback. And the reason I love it is because after I teach the crazy action going on back here, you know what I say to the quarterback? It's post wheel. Like, don't overthink it, right? So, we've done it too, where we've wheeled the tailback out of the backfield, after reverse, throw back to the quarterback, and there goes the tailback. And the quarterback's like, all right, what's happening? And I'm like, hey, man, when you catch the ball, post wheel.
Yeah. Do you ever do any other variations of, I kind of term that like vertical switch. Do you do other variations of post wheel? Like, is that like traditional vertical switch or like scissors or like, do you?
Yeah. So we do scissors. We call it rattle. And we also do what we call lightning, which is your traditional, more like go switch. But when you're coaching through it, it's like, all right, guys, lightning and I call it Bama. Lightning and Bama, it's the same thing. Okay. Now it's we're going to have check downs, right? You can get shut down if the safety caps you. We're not going to try to run by him. We're just going to sit that thing down and turn it into a curl. We're on post wheel. We're not doing that. We're running the post, we're running the wheel. So yeah, we have those variations that we can build off of that where they're very similar. We're still attacking a second level sideline read player, still attacking the safety. We're just giving him different pictures now where things are coming from. Because a lot of times on the post wheels, I'm taking that sniffer as the wheel guy, trying to hide him as an attached tight end or a sniffer, and there he goes running the wheel.
This sounds very similar to what we learned from Gus Malzahn back in like 2016. Actually, the play was Bama in the Auburn playbook, and it's like double slant to the field. That number one to the boundary's got the big 9-step post. The H sniffer's got the wheel, and the back's in the boundary. And we still carry that to this day. And that's been a great one. And our thing is, we kind of rhythm the quick game. So like we're rhythming either slant or fin, the double slant side, and that's on like a 2-step drop or like a punch one, and then we flip and go post wheel back. So it's kind of the same thing. Like we're kind of reading the post and the wheel at the same time, the same timing. So usually in 2 high, we're banging one of the slants, but in 1 high, it's usually post wheel.
What's your teaching point on the wheel route, Coach, as far as, do you teach hug the bottom of the numbers, that way the defender don't use the sideline against you, or you more free with your players? How do you teach the wheel route?
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to be below the numbers, right? However, this year we ran a version of what we're talking about with emotion, and the backer came and he kind of pushed the sniffer as he went to run the wheel, and he just got a little low of the numbers, and the quarterback had to put it on a line because he was a little bit tighter than we'd like him to be. But I feel like if you're always on rhythm at the quarterback spot, right, where the guys end up, yes, we're going to try to hold the numbers. We're going to say all the coach speak stuff, right? No pun intended here. But if we get pushed down a little bit, Q, make us right. Put a little less air on it and put that thing on a line back shoulder, right? Not everything's going to work out how exactly we want it to work out. But we are going to give those rules. But we're in practice. We're going to practice the what scenarios. All right, the wheel got pushed, the vertical got pushed. What are you going to do? Just say, oh, coach, he's getting hammered to the sideline. All right, well, if that's still your read, we got to make something happen. So just training them that everything's not going to be perfect. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing revolutionary with that. I think some things in football have been created because they're the right things to say, and then you just got to make your adjustments off of that and work the scenarios where things don't work out how you want them to.
With getting your best players the ball, have you ever gone into a game where you're like, man, I think this wheel's going to come open, and like put your best guy at that sniffer or even like a number two to the boundary? We do that a lot.
Absolutely. We've done it where like we'll give that a one word because we're kind of changing some things up, right? So instead of calling it Bama, we call it Saban, right?
Gotcha.
So all right, on Saban, it's Bama, but now you come out, you go here, you motion there. All right, ready, break. Here we go. You can put that in your one word family when you want to change something up like that. Or we've just done it with a new formation, right? And now the H goes there, the Y goes there, and here we go. Because sometimes I think as offensive coaches, no offense here, Dustin, with the defensive guys, we give them too much credit that the players are going to recognize things. The coaches will recognize.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But how quickly can the players recognize or hear from their coach? If you're operating at a good pace, that's really difficult sometimes on a defense.
Well, you know what's funny, my previous stop, we played a lot of one high. And I can't tell you how many times post wheel got misread. Post is wide open, they throw the wheel that's covered. The wheel's wide open, and the quarterback's forcing the post. It's like in one high, at the previous school, we ran some match coverage. Well, that's nothing but man coverage. So all you got to do is win on the wheel route, and it's like just the amount of, it's a really great play, but what's your percentage of completing it, reading it correctly and completing it? Because I do think it's a great play. I've seen it work a lot, but I've also seen it be not the greatest play in terms of completion percentage, even when it's wide open, so, and that's where, you guys come in. It's like, hey man, we got to make a play. Like if it's going to pop, it's going to pop, make the throw, and that's the biggest thing. But
like, don't throw it to the track and hit a cheerleader.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Give him a chance, give him a chance. An overthrown ball is an incomplete pass, right? Our old coach at Brookwood back in my day, when I was a player, used to joke that like three things happen when you throw a pass, right? Two of them are bad. But I like to flip that and be like, three things are going to happen. All three are good, right? We're going to catch it. We're going to make sure that we catch it. And then, oh, hey guys, by the way, if we don't catch it, there's going to be a PI on them. So here we go.
100%.
So it's like Jedi mind trick to get like interception. Like that word does not fall into what we're trying to do. So it's always about us.
Sure. Coach,
go ahead, Dustin. Yeah.
So this is a little switch, but just I'm interested to see how your brain works as a coordinator. When you go in, do you look at 2x2 or 3x1 first? Like if you're trying to figure out a defense or their rules or who they are, what do you look at first?
So I look at 2x2 first because 3x1s are always checks. Right. And that goes back to my time on defense and my time with Pro Quick Draw. Whenever I'm talking to a defensive guy, right, anytime you throw up 3x1, everything starts adjusting, right? You put up 2x2 and they just put people where they need to go. And here we go. So I kind of steal that nugget from my time when I'm demoing guys and talking some PQD work. I'm like, okay. When it's 2x2, you're very calm and get everything lined up. You throw 3x1, now it's all right. Is 3 on the hash, or is 3 more towards the core? Is 3 6 yards from the tackle? Where's 2? Where's 1? All these things are going in. And when I coach safeties, right, we call it 4 checks. We call quarters, and they come out in 3x1. Do you know how many menu options we had that the kids could pick based on how they lined up? with their splits and where was three and are they bunched, are they tight, are they clustered. Coach, when I was coaching safeties, I was out there with a cheat sheet. Like, all right, they're that. All right, cool. We need to go that. Because, there's just so many different things that you can do in just quarters, let alone cover three and all the variations of one high.
Man, it's, and I'd be interested to talk to any defensive guy that doesn't install 2x2 first, just to hear their reasoning and explanation, because everyone I've seen it is 2x2. Because when you hear the word unbalanced, a lot of people think of traditional offensive lines over, but when you look at it, 3x1 is unbalanced. So like the offense is creating an unbalanced formation. So the defense has to adjust in some way for that unbalance. And to your point, it's all checks. It's adjusters. Who's the adjuster? Are we going to send a backer over? Are we going to spin a safety? What are we going to do? And then like I tell Bolton all the time is the number one thing I look at in trips, how you playing the backside, because that's going to tell me a lot of who you are. Because if you play the backside because the X is a dude and you bracket him or double him, cone him, whatever you want to call it, well, can you handle the 4 strong stuff? Okay, well, now if you want to handle the 4 strong stuff and bracket, well, now you got to play a 3 down lineman and drop 8 to cover it all. And then, you just start getting into, that's why I think trips is like you said, is so tough, because there's so many things you can have to adjust for, but check based on how they align.
Right, which is funny because, in high school football, man, like when that ball is on left, middle, right, middle, left hash, right hash, like 2x2 open is not your friend on offense. There's just not enough space. Now 2x2 condensed, tight end attached, sniffer, okay, we're rocking and rolling. But if the ball's left hash and you're in 2x2, well, you got 2 guys over there in 12.5 yards of space, and you got 2 over there in 40 plus. So, you're just not in 2x2 very much overall, I think.
Yeah, and even like the last 20 years of defenses working against 2x2 and 3x1, there's really a lot of variation of what defenses can do. Like there's a lot of variability. And so for me, I don't feel as confident going in, even as a play caller, to like make sure that our quarterback is comfortable when you can get so many different coverages to 2x2 and even 3x1, but certainly to 2x2. I would rather go into a game and do only 3x1 versus only 2x2. Like I think 3x1, you're gonna, like you said, it's like a check defense. Like, are you gonna rotate weak? Are you gonna rotate strong? Are you gonna play some kind of quarters? Are you gonna? It's just, but there's not as much variation as if like 2x2, and certainly with disguising too. So, yeah, man, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting cat and mouse game, right? And then you get into the game, and all of a sudden the defense is doing something that you have not seen on film all year long. And you're like, all right, well, here we go. We got the flavor. We call it the flavor of the week, right? Okay, they throw the game plan out. It's like, I don't need a call sheet anymore. Let's go to day one install and call this thing off the top of the head, right? So you're like, well, that was a lot of hours wasted to scheme and go against that, because that's when it always goes back to, what can your players do? That scheme don't mean nothing at that point.
Yeah. How much do you, as far as your tempo, which you run, whether it's huddle, no huddle, how much of that do you factor in, like the head coach's wishes or the opposing offense that your team's going against? And I guess I'm kind of circling around to, are you a run first, pass first guy? And I know it's personnel based, but, do you consider all the factors, or do you just kind of call it how you want to call it?
You got to consider all the factors. Young PJ, back when I called some JV back in the day, in my first couple of years. Now, of course, I had a quarterback who was very special, so it was easy for me to just say, we're slinging this thing no matter what, and you can't really stop it. But when you don't have that, you have to think of everything. And again, right, nobody ever yells very much to the defensive coordinator in the stands. Everybody can run a grill, right? They know the answer to every question. They damn sure can call offensive football. So, from my chair, I think of, all right, how's our defense playing, right? I'm not going to tell them what to do, how to stop them. That's their job, right? But if our defense is, playing really well, shutting them down, 3 and outs, then I'm a little more free with the play calls, right? Flip side of that, if they're not stopping them and they're having a tough time on defense, right? Do I really want to go 3 and out fast? Okay. Now, that always goes back to, though, I don't care what they're doing if I know I got them, right? If I've got the other team and everything I'm calling's clicking, I understand what they're trying to do, I understand what I want to do, well, then that don't really matter. If we score quickly, we're going to score quickly, get your butt on the field, defense, and make a stop. Okay. But you can't just always live in that mindset, in my opinion, or you're going to put your defense in a really hard situation at some point that might cost you a game, right? So, at the end of the day, I mean, I know we all talk about stats and players love it and fans love it. There's only one stat that matters, right? We got one more point than you at the end. All this matters, right? You'll forget scores pretty quickly, but you'll remember that you won the game. So, I know it's probably not the answer. Maybe you're.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's the right way to approach it. I mean, I remember there's been so many instances as a coordinator, even as a head coach, calling plays, but even this past year, our defense is, they gave up a few scores early, and then we're pinned deep, and there's like just the whole thing was they're a triple option team. We had like 3 possessions in the first half. Well, one, our defense is not getting off the field, but we're not doing our job of keeping the chains moving. And so, man, that's a really hard place to be in as a coordinator. You're like, man, kind of getting stoned on offense. It's hard to run the ball. Do I really want to open this thing up and get a turnover? Or do I want to, it's like, it's a tough spot to be in, but you have to be mindful of the decisions that you make, especially in certain situations, as the game can just get out of hand. And,
Right.
And so I think you're thinking about it the right way. You're thinking about it from a standpoint of winning the game, not necessarily running 75 plays on offense and getting 500 yards or whatever the case may be. I think that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah,
And
that stuff's gonna come.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Well, and that's kind of like how I guess I've evolved as a coach. I started out, we were 11, 12, and we ran the football and we'd throw a couple shots in high school. And that's kind of what I came up in. Then I go to York and it's straight Tony Franklin, sling the ball around, vertical set, linemen. We're teaching, if they can't get to you, they can't get to the quarterback. Like they're just retreating. And then, so I went from, you have to run the ball to win the game. And then it kind of changed to, well, no, dude, the ball's got to move north and south, no matter how you do it. And then it turned into, okay, well, you're not offense anymore. Now you're head coach and defense. And it's like, dang, when air raid's working, it's beautiful. But dang, dude, y'all were out there 46 seconds, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, so it changes every year. And I think that's just growing as a coach. But you see the value in running the football, but you also understand the value of moving the ball down the field. And it changes every game versus every opponent versus it just all the factors change it.
And the opposite is true too. I think if you're really good, and I've been on some teams, we've run the ball really, really well. And it's like every game, man, we're pounding it. We're trying to protect maybe an inexperienced quarterback. We're only throwing it maybe 12 to 14 times a game, and a couple of those are RPOs and screens. But you're running the ball, you're protecting the defense. But to really win the big one or win it or compete for a championship, he's going to have to sit in that pocket and complete 3rd and 8 for you down the stretch. And I think that's the opposite of that. It's like, even if you are really good at running the ball, at some point, that really good defenses can start taking away what you're really good at. And you better have a guy that can stand in that pocket and deliver, or have the pass protection necessary, the receivers that can go make plays too. So it really does take both, I think, if you're really going to make a run.
Yeah, I mean, just find explosives, right? Said and done. Find explosives, and you can be explosive in the running game. You can call jet sweep if you got that guy, and you're a great play caller because you called a play where the quarterback tossed the ball straight up in the air, and we caught it and we ran around the edge, we blocked it well, we scored, right? So it's like, just find explosives, right? Is it a run? Is it a pass? Well, on the call, on the stats, it's a pass, right? But we all know that's a run. So it's just find those explosives and just maintain the identity that it takes 3 phases to win a football game, right? And you got to win 2 of them. And I can really control 1, so I'm going to try to make sure we always win that one and not put the other 2 in a hard spot.
Sure. Yeah, I tell you, going back to all the games that I've coached and called ball, the games that we fail to have explosives against the really good teams are the games that we've lost, like the big games. Even if you had something, you're like, man, I think this is going to work, because really, man, those explosives, like, even if you miss your opportunity, you can call the right play and we don't execute as well, or whatever the case may be. I just remember going back, you're right, man, like the explosives in those big games are what really can change the momentum, because you only get I guess when you play the better teams, and this is like logical, you get less opportunity for those explosives. And when you don't hit them, you're probably not going to do so well. And then you throw a turnover in, and you don't do so well on special teams, you miss a field goal, then you lose by 3. So yeah,
Right.
those are some big, that's really important to think about.
Yeah. I mean,
Coach, are you a big screen guy? Do you do any screens? And
man,
if so, how do you do it?
yeah, that's like you always judge yourself, right? The man in the mirror is the one who's going to really tell the truth if you let him. And I told myself last year, I'm going to pour into screens, right? We're going to be a better screen team. We're going to have variations of slow, fast. Of course, you got the air raid, 40, 41, 50, 51, like all those. Those are great perimeter screens. I was like, we're going to run screens. We're going to run screens. We're going to not just be, an RPO team with this and that. We're going to do it. And guess what? We didn't do very well. We didn't run screens. And why didn't we do them very well? Because I didn't call them enough. Right. But on Mondays, guess what we did every Monday? We did screen period to start the day. That was our thing. We're going to run 10 plays of screens. And the screens don't really change much, right? Different window dressing, but you're not going to come up with a new screen concept. And so as a play caller, like that's one of my regrets from last year is just not calling more screens, having the opportunity to just let the kids go play. That's a screen is like a run, man. Just let the dog get loose. So I'm definitely not the one to sit here and be like, hey, yeah, run these screens. These are our
Man,
best ones.
I'm the same way. I say it every year. I'm like, man, we're gonna run like solid off a freaking like buck or something. And I'm like, I want to go down, but man, all we end up doing is running fast screens. Not enough. We still don't run fast screens enough, and they're really good. And then we do slow screen pretty well, but that takes a while to get good at. But yeah, we need to do a better job of that too. And I don't know why I'm hesitant. I'm like, I guess I just don't. I think screens are expensive. I really do. I think they're very expensive. And then when I don't see them work in practice as well, I'm like, well, we're just not going to be able to do it. So I got to invest more time in it and maybe take something else off the table.
I hate when that one guy who's just like hanging around beats the guard across the face on accident, and he blows the play up, and you're like, God dang it, like that's a touchdown.
Yes.
So and so like
favorite position group we were talking about, they can screw the pooch on that.
Or they're both looking around like this.
Right, they're both looking around. There he goes, and it's like there he was, and so it's definitely a play where one guy can really give you a hard time. But we've done like a throwback screen off boot, which is always awesome. Everybody gets going this way, you throw it back, and here we go. So we've got a menu of them. I just, as a play caller, I gotta call more. I just gotta call more on first down, right? Like you don't have to call them on blitz downs. Because blitz downs are usually the ones that sometimes get you in trouble, and then of course you'll watch a game, it's 3rd and 15 and the team throws a screen and you're like, what is the defense doing? Right? It's for 40. How'd you not know screen was coming? So sometimes as a play caller, you have to be like, all right, well, let's do it.
Chunk it deep as man.
Yeah. Just chunk it deep, right? Stay deep.
Oh, so just talking about situational stuff. Do you game plan your third downs? And I mean, I'm sure you do, but like, how do you go about third downs in your game planning? I know we spend a great deal on that.
Yeah, so we definitely do, and also too in high school football, I think that you can overkill yourself on trying to figure out what the defense is trying to do on third down. Right? I think you need to spend more and more time. What are you really good at on third down? What's their percentages, and let's rock and roll. Because again, that DC is probably running the weight room all day. Right? Or he's teaching PE and he's trying to sit on his computer. Like, so there's so many outside factors that I always try to take into consideration. And I give a coach third down as his responsibility. So on Tuesdays after practice, we have a third down meeting, and it's just me and that coach who's responsible for it. And I tell him everything that I think, he tells me everything he thinks, and we make the plan together. So that way in the game, guess what he's also looking at? On third down, right? If there's silence on the headset, if I have any moment of I'm thinking, I want him to say something, right? Just give me a quick reminder of what you really liked because you owned third down. Got a coach who owns red zone, right? So those two parts of the field got to get owned by somebody besides me, right? Of course, I got to take final ownership and pull the trigger, but you need somebody who was looking at that hours on end throughout the week. I don't need you looking at first down, second down, open field. I need you looking at third down. I need you looking at red zone. And you become great at that craft. so that way you can really help us succeed.
Have you, in your experience, have you noticed, and I'm sure you have third down, but do you see defenses changing a lot once you kind of get into that 25 plus 20? We definitely, the better teams do. We don't see a lot of changing. I mean, so I've
No,
been game playing red zone. It's like, well, they're not doing anything different.
no, yeah. I mean, when you talk about like that middle zone of like 35 to 35, that's where you'll kind of get your funky stuff. Right? You cross that 35-yard line, yellow zone, whatever you want to call it. A defense is going to do what they do because they're now at the bend but don't break phase, right? They got into possible field goal range. Let's hold them right here. So all that funky stuff that maybe you saw in the open field is going to go away. And then also, too, as the field compresses, there's only so much things they can do. Right. Same with us on offense. As the field compresses, we lose the menu just like they lose the menu. So it's just kind of remembering that, and then just go back to understanding, right? Like, if you're really good at 3-by-1 chair, with the corner alert post and the 2 mini digs, I don't care what coverage they're in, coached up and let's go.
Sure.
So
that makes
just
sense.
try to always remember that.
Well, it's funny because the situational part that you're allowing coaches to own, I think me and Bolt would agree, because we felt like this kind of at York, 35 to 35, first, second down, we knew the game plan. We knew what the team was doing. We knew what plays were coming. We were ripping them. But the only time we really look at the play call sheet is on third down to keep us on track to understand what we're anticipating, and then those super situational times, because and that's how I felt as offensive coordinator. Our rhythm stuff, our rhythm and read stuff, first, second downs between the 30s, like I knew what we were anticipating. I knew what they were going to do, and I knew what I was trying to do. But, when it's 3rd and 6, refer to that play call sheet, because you have put the time and the game plan in, you know what's coming, and your quarterback's prepared, versus calling the wrong play because you think it's working in the game, just trusting your preparation.
And Coach Katz, just going back to what you said about defenses and red zone, is really, and like you said, it's not really about what the defense is going to do. It's almost more about what you can do as the field compresses, right? Like, you're not going to maybe have the same shots that you would in the middle of the field. So that's kind of where I've been with it. Like, when we game plan, it's more, okay, I really kind of maybe want to do this off this particular run that doesn't necessarily, take 50 yards to do. I really think that's a good way of thinking about it. And I think I've done that, but I think when you said that really brought that to my mind. Like, maybe it's more about what we can do from like a shot standpoint or something they haven't seen to maybe gain some more advantages without the space availability.
Right. You move the ball like in your script, right? But when you get into that, we start on our red zone day, we start at the 35, right? Because that's where it starts, I think, to limit your shot plays. Then we move it up and we move it all around to all our different spots. And if we have a play that week that, like, I know it was a screen actually 2 years ago. It was like, this ball has to be on the 7 to 8 yard line and it has to be left middle. If it's not, the play doesn't work. Well, first time we got to the 7 yard line, left middle, the tight end coach on the headset goes, "You're at your spot." So I called the play and it worked for a touchdown, right? So it's like, okay, that's really cool to see the game plan, the scripting of practice into the game. You make the call and it works. Like, those are the ones you remember, right? You try to forget the ones that didn't work. But that all comes from, okay, we talked about this in the red zone meeting. We scripted it in practice. We ran it. We drew it. We presented it. And now here we go. Let's run it. That's what you do this for on a Friday night. Like, that's a feeling that I don't think you can get in any other profession.
Unless you're Rory McIlroy, you're wearing your Masters.
Yeah, exactly, right.
He gets the 3/4 wedge shot, sticks it within like 2 feet to win the Masters in his Grand Slam. Just a little plug in there for the golf guys.
Could have made the putts, when I was watching him hit on 15, he could have made that putt, the putt on 16.
Yeah.
Come on, Rory, let's put it away here. But yeah, he stepped up in the playoff and was like, hey, if I put this thing tight, it's over. Like, now's my time to make the call, and he did it. So definitely props to him, man. That was awesome to see.
Yeah, we had to make sure Coach flexing with that Master's gear.
The Georgia guys.
Hey,
Georgia guys.
You get it. You got to wear it, man. You got to represent.
No doubt. No doubt. I do know, going back to what you were talking about, like hey, we're on the 7, a certain spot. I was talking with Spencer and him and Dub and Johnny over there at Union. he was telling me that they try to be very intentional with middle of the field plays because they're so limited in high school. So when you get that middle of the field, what special, and I won't say trick plays, but what special plays can we run? If you're a reverse team, maybe that's when you run the reverse because you're going to have a little bit more, I guess, total field for them to cover. The whole field third's not eliminated anymore. But they talked about how being super intentional with middle of the field calls and game planning that created some opportunities that were successful for them.
Yeah, I've never truly thought of that. I mean, you script a few middle of the field calls, like in a 10-play script, I think I get 2 because that's really the percentages.
33% time basically that the plays can be run from the middle of the field.
Yeah, so I need that's a great
36.
nugget right there, Coach. Yeah. I need to be more intentional with what you think about it, but you're definitely right, man. I need to be more intentional with that.
Well, now you don't have the secondary boundary read.
Right.
Like it's kind of a different spacing for me. Like when I think about middle of the field, I almost want to protect the quarterback more. Like if we're throwing like slash, technically there is no boundary. So like, is the spacing different? Did I work on the spacing enough to be able to throw that particular concept? I bet if I go back, I'm probably like 100% run in the middle of the field or something. Just because
hey, get me back to home. Get me to a hash here.
Yeah, exactly. Give me to a hash, please.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that.
All right, Coach. So talk to us a little about how you practice those situations. I mean, I know we talked about practicing, but in season, how many days are you spending on these situations, or how many periods, I should say?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all broken down just like everybody else, I think, who's organized by the day. What are you trying to accomplish Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Thursday is pretty much a wash because that's just reviewing what you've already done, right? Because the game's coming Friday with a walkthrough. So on Monday, I'm really focusing on what is our home, right? What are we really good at? And I want to hit that again really fast. We're going to hit our screens, which again, talking to myself, calling more. Anything that's new that I think is complicated, right? If it's hey, this week we're going to run pin and pull and now we're going to throw fast to the field. Well, that's already in. Now we're just combining it. I'm not going to hit that on Monday. We're good. But anything that's new and possibly complicated, we're going to hit. And, anything that I put to a drawing, right, is really what we put down. It's like, all right, guys, we put this in to attack that. Does it need to be drawn to be taught? Yeah, Coach, we got to draw that. All right, we draw it up in PQD. We present it. That's going to get repped on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Because to me, that's new, right? And you got to limit yourself. I'm really close played college ball with Russ Callaway, who's now the OC at Florida, been there for the last few years. He got the full title this year. It's like what's new and what's old, right? And that's where the only rule I kind of stick by, like the 85-15, right? 85% of this, they know like the back of their hand. 15% of this is new, but it ain't brand new. Meaning I'm going to limit that where like 10 of these calls are putting together things that we've never put together that make sense this week. And then 5 of these things might be brand spanking new. Okay. And so by doing that allows me to script, and it's very easy to chart and follow what we've called and what we've run Monday through Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to hit on the things that I really want to call, like your must calls, right? When we're doing our kick script, those are calls that if I don't call it on Friday night, that's my fault. Right. And then your Friday walkthrough kind of goes through what you're talking about. Where's your landmarks? Where's your situations? Let's make sure there's no questions on that. Your trick plays, your specials, and let's get after it. So it's not a rocket science. That's the thing I love about football, right? What is football? It's a game that coaches make extremely complicated, and it's simple, right? Simple game, complicated by coaches. So I try to make sure to just follow that script. And I want the kids to be bored with what's coming. It's Wednesday. Here we go. We're going to do this. Yeah. Heck yeah, we're going to do this. Because you know what? We've never done it perfectly. And we will never do it perfectly because I'll find something that we could do better.
For sure.
So that's what I want. I want the kids to not even have to look at the order of what's coming. They know, all right, we're going to this, we're going to this, we're going to that. And of course, guys, throw a curveball in there. Oh, no, we're going to go do this today versus the defense. All right, and it gets them excited.
I like that, yeah. We do something similar, yeah.
There's a reason why Coach Saban wore the same thing to practice every day, right? Pretty much, because that's a thought that he doesn't need to think about.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's get to what matters, and let's do it, and let's do it really, really well.
I heard the head coach of UConn girls team. What's his name? D'Antonio. What's his name?
Gino,
Gino. What's his last?
isn't
Yeah, you're right.
Oriema?
Yes,
Oriema? Yeah.
yeah, Oriema. Yeah. So he was talking about practice, and he was talking about the standard of practice. Your practice should always, if your standard of practice is kind of mid, right, and when you get to the game, this is very obvious, but it makes sense to like what you're saying with like boring. But like if your standard of practice is here and you're in the game, you're never really going to play up to your standard of practice. Just not the same. You have all these variables and teams are better than practice players. He said, so he actually wants it. Obviously, we want our guys to practice at the highest level. And then are we really ever going to meet that? Probably not. But if we have that practice of like, man, this is boring. We know what to expect, but like we're going to go and give it our best and we have a good shot. I love that you talk about being boring, but I like it's boring, but it's good. Like boring is going to make you great. And I think that's really good with how you set your practice up each week. And then obviously throwing those things in too for competition and kind of, spiking the old heart rate up. So
yeah, it's always good to change something up once in a while, but again, don't have the kids come out and be like, what are we doing today? That's not good, right? Kids are creatures of habit. Humans are creatures of habit,
yes,
right?
routine.
So routine, baby. Keep them in it.
So how do you use tempo? What's your idea on like talk to me a little about like are
Yeah.
you a huddle team, no huddle? You
Yeah.
talked about in high school running in from the sideline, what they coach around your around the helmet, like
breath stinking terribly by the end of the game. So it's like, man. So we have a bunch of different tempos, right? So our standard tempo is going to be no huddle, signaling, quarterback communicating what the offensive line needs to know. I'm going to make sure that we're operating at a very efficient pace, right? Then we have what we call tempo formations. So one signal is going to put you in the formation. It's on first sound, and then I'm going to give you the play with it. Okay, so it's not a one-word call, right? I'm going to give you the formation play still, but we're trying to go as super fast as we can, limit the movement, get us into our base formations, and we're going to run normally our base calls. Put a lot on the quarterback because if I call a pass play, he's got to relay the protection right away. I'm not going to waste time signaling protection. So we have tempo formations, right? And then we also have our one-word plays, which, you say tide, 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 and here they go. They line up, they motion, they shift, they run it as quickly as they can. Of course, we have our fake silent counts, our silent counts, our checks, our fake checks, like all these things that we can throw in when needed to keep a defense off balance if I feel like they're jumping the snap, but I can't go really fast because our defense was just on the field for 10 plays. Okay, how can I switch the tempo? And I know defensive coordinators, so that goes defense. They have their fastball calls to match you, and that's totally fine, right? But I think when my guys are playing fast and thinking less, good things happen.
Yes, I like that a lot. We have several different ones as well, much like yours. The one I think that I'm going to probably start to use more is like the sugar huddle stuff, like what you're talking about. You can still kind of control the game, but you're still simulating going fast because you can break the huddle really quickly. There's not a whole lot of thinking going on. I think it's easier for defensive guys, and Dustin, you can speak to this too. Like if you just see us out there, if you just see us, I know you're not, but like if you just see us out there lining up in trips, and then like we're kind of no huddle, we're no huddle, but we're not going fast, and you're kind of like, all right, the back is on this side. All right, now I can get my call in. I think that's an advantage for defensive guys versus like either going super fast one word stuff or almost like huddling. I know huddling is like taboo now, but I think you can get some really good advantages on offense if you kind of sugar huddle, line up fast and go.
If you run any type of 12 or 21 personnel and you're not sugar huddling inside the 15, you're doing yourself a disservice from an offensive standpoint.
That's an automatic tempo for us in that, by the way. We huddle every single time we're in that
because the thing is, I remember back at York, we would do, our second tight end wasn't really a tight end. He was just kind of a betweener. He couldn't play a skill position, but he wasn't big enough to play OL. And I remember if we wanted like what I call near, which is pro, but it's tight end H-backs on the same side, we would go tackle over, and then that little guy would be the backside tackle. He was eligible, but you start doing that in sugar huddle and you start going unbalanced and all that, there's so much attention to detail your run fit has to pay attention. Are you going to knock the front? Who's the new center? Like what's going on? And it's like, if you run any 12 and you're not sugar huddling inside the 25, man, start doing it, and hopefully you don't play us, but it's so tough.
Yeah, I mean, we get under center and huddle inside the 15. Like, and I know that might be like blasphemy nowadays in football, right? We're gonna huddle up, get under center, bring in extra linemen, bring in extra tight ends, get in 4 or 5 man surfaces. Where the play before that, we were in 10 personnel to get down here. So, I think like that is tempo. I'm changing everything up on you, right? And of course, we have fastball calls on that. We have slow calls on that. And, at the end of the day, it all boils down to just pure execution of the players, right? And, we start practice every day with taking snaps from a center. Now, we only do that like 5 to 8% of the game, but I don't want to be nervous on the 2-yard line about us taking a snap. Right? We got to get under center, take a snap. Let's go. So we got to rep it.
For sure. Yeah, man, that makes sense. And before we get to our 2-minute drill, I do want to hit a little bit on like practice and game planning. If you're good to move on, Dustin. And I know we've hit several of these things that we wanted to cover, but what does your so talk about your game week. What does, like, in terms of game planning, what does your typical game week look like in terms of planning for your next opponent? Talk about your weekend. You talked a little bit about giving coaches responsibilities. I'm really interested in that. Talk about how you kind of break all that down for an opponent.
Yeah. So I did a presentation on this. I can't remember which platform it's on, but kind of game planning using PQD. And the best part about that I love with that is it gives coaches, like we talked about, responsibility. So tight ends coach third down, O-line coach run game and protection issues and blitzes, right? Running back coach, you're going to look at openers. Wide receiver coach, I need you to look at third down. And I want you to go build a presentation. Now, don't overwhelm me with the presentation. Don't come with this 20-slide presentation that, Nick Saban would absolutely love. That's great. I ain't got enough time to go through all that. Okay. Give me what we need to know while I'm looking at the whole picture. Let's put that into a presentable, and then let's go through that. So that will lead me into scripting. So we build, and again, I stole this from Russ at Florida, we build a bank. Okay. So on Sundays, after we go through the game plan, the scouting report, we look at what we want to do. We throw ideas here and there. We're going straight to our bank. And in our bank, the thing that I love that we do is every call has a number. Every call has a tag in terms of what it is. 1 back power, 2 back power, pin and pull, first level sideline, all the different categories of what we can actually call. We put it into a bank and we start adding what we want to add. We take away what we don't think will work this week. And that allows me to go through it on Monday and say, okay, we're working pin and pull and counter this period. All right, I go to my filter, pin and pull counter. If I pull that up, coach, and there's 20 calls, we have a problem. I'm not calling that 20 times. Okay, so then I go to the line guys, say, all right, we got to throw out half of these. What can we get rid of? What's not really a good call this week, right? So that's what I'm doing is I live and die by the bank, because that's where like the mind of everything is. The bank creates the scripts create the call sheet. Right, if you're going to simplify it.
So inside the bank, is that where you have all your buckets?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
so
the buckets is a column.
Okay.
Yeah, so a bucket would be like, so we go A is all runs. So we go like A PMP, that's all the pin and pulls. A CTR, that's all the counters. A, counter tray, that's all the counter trays, right? So all your A calls, all your runs. And then we go to like the B calls. B calls are first level sideline, which to me is like we're reading the corner, running outs, running something like a smash. Exactly. Okay. Then we're going to go to our second level sidelines. Then we're going to go to our crossers. Then we're going to go to our 4 verts. So everything has a bucket. If we put a play in, right, or a play is getting carried on the call sheet, it fits in a bucket. There's no one-offs. If there's a one-off, how am I going to coach it?
Yeah, and so what you're saying is those buckets. All right. So talk to me a little bit about. We do something similar, but I really like what you're talking about. How do you create flow in your play calls? So like, are you doing like, all right, if we're running, pin and pull, and then like, is the adjustment like counter, or is it like, talk to me about how do you create like flow in your play calls with that?
Yeah, so we have setup. So
Okay.
we'll take that and we'll put it into a spot on the call sheet we call setups. So we'll say, all right, here's our top runs. What goes off of those? Well, coach,
Okay.
we need to run this screen. We need to run this play action. We need to run this other run concept with this RPO. So now that's in a setups category, right?
Nice.
In the
Okay.
bank, everything's independent, right?
Yep.
Because I love to go through the bank, especially on a Wednesday. I'll pull that thing up and I'll just filter each bucket, right? And if I have 3 to 4 that kind of built on each other, I know we've done a good job preparing
Mm,
that concept. If I go in there and there's 10 in there, well, either A, they really stink at stopping it, or B, we had way too many crazy ideas and we got to pare this thing down. So,
do you
that's
ever
what
go
Russ kind
back
of
and
showed
look
me
and
that.
see what, do you go back to that bank after the game and say, like, what did we not call enough or what
Oh,
did we call too much, and then kind of go from there?
absolutely. And when people ask before, like, what's your number? And I'm like, well, we don't really have a number. Like on 3rd and 6, we don't say 2 runs and 3 passes. I know you can look at data and figure out how many 3rd and 6 you're going to have and sit with that. What we figured out on our bank, our happy spot, and I'm talking all your trick plays, all your like crazy 2-minute calls, Hail Marys, your pitch and passes, your laterals, we put all that on the call sheet. If we stayed right around 110, that's where we felt like we had a good, strong game plan that all of us knew off the top of our head. Anything over that, we started getting into a territory where like, ooh, might be carrying too much. Now you
Yeah.
might say, well, coach, 110 is a lot. Well, when you boil it down, right, you got 6 ways to run pin and pull this week. You got 4
Right.
ways to run your smash variation. It's really not 110 plays.
So
Like
in
I
your
have victory on there. Victory takes a spot every week.
so in your A bucket, let's just say like A counter.
Yep.
So it may be trips open GT counter week. It may be, hey, pro flop with twins opposite counter H to the twins. So is that kind of how the buckets are?
Yes.
Every way that you think is going to be, and is
Yep.
motion built into those calls too?
Yep.
If you're okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but
That's good.
there's a personnel column too, so I can see, okay, we've got it out of 10, 11, and 12, right? But then from there, so you got your bucket, you got your personnel. Is it a tempo call, right? Tempo formation or a fastball for the week, and then it's just formation, motion, play with tag,
Sure.
right? And so that to me has been enough for us to really set our bank up to be able to then, okay, hey, Coach Martin, I need you to script inside today, right? I got caught up. I need help on inside. Go script it.
Gotcha.
You can't pull some crazy idea out of your head on a Tuesday afternoon. Go to the bank. Today's a zone day, right? Pull up the zones, and those are the ones you can call.
And I bet that's where PQD, Pro Quick Draw, just makes it so easy within the whole staff being able to pull. Because if y'all have a shared drive, all of your bank plays are already made, and you just kind of pick and pull how you need it.
Correct. Go make your visual script. Go put it on the typed out script. Everything's the same. Everything's organized. And the kids, we push things to the kids every day by 10:30. Some days it's every play of practice we're going to run because I feel like they need to look at it again. Some days it's our specials for the day. Some days it's our 7-on-7. That I'm kind of variable with, but every day I want to give them visuals to look at. Right. Again, they can't look at a call sheet or practice script and visually understand what you want them to do. They need drawings. They're kids, right? They play Madden for a reason. They're not picking Madden because of the play name. They're picking it because they like the way the play looks.
Yep.
So let's give that to them. And yeah, of course, my work with PQD, I think the bank is a pro quick draw mindset in Excel, right? There's no drawings on the bank, but it's exactly what PQD does with organizing files and folders and then pushing that out into a presentable product.
Yeah. So if you're scripting, you're taking your bank and then you're making your script, and then all you got to do is go into PQD and pull those. Super easy, make your playlist and ride. I love that. I like the ideas of banks, actually. I think that's really cool.
You got me wanting to go back in time at York and bucket. Let's make some buckets.
Well, yeah, I mean, like
that
when we game plan, it's more like, we do it by formation. So we figure formation first, and I like to do that based on the amount of variability that the defense is going to give us based on those formations. So I know if you're going to come out if like we're going to come out 2x2 and we get like 5 different coverages and you're like, a bunch of blitzes and crap, like I'm probably not going to run a lot of 2x2, right? So with all that, we kind of go through and then we kind of go through, okay, what's our best strong run out of this, out of our, rhythm formation, versus their rhythm defense kind of thing. And then we do adjustment off of that. So that's kind of how we build our flow. But I like the banks. That makes a lot of sense. And I like it too, because sometimes when I'm doing my, scripting, and not necessarily scripting, but game planning, I'm not necessarily tracking how many different ways I'm running a particular concept. And I think that could be very beneficial for me, especially in-game adjustments, which we're going to get to in a second with you. But like, especially if something's working that you weren't expecting to, but you got 6 different ways to run it, you don't have to sit there and just run it like 2 by 2, like insert, smash or whatever it is. Like, you can do it at multiple formations. I love that. I think that's what I'm definitely going to steal that from you.
Yeah, it's and again, it's not a idea I created. I fitted it to fit my brain, but it gives you a Bible to go back to. And we've made banks before. We're like, all right, cover 3 tab. What from our main bank do we want to run versus cover 3, cover 2, quarters, right? You can build off that, and everything's talking to each other, everything's flowing, and it just allows you. And hey, your receiver coach throws this crazy idea out there. You're like, okay, yeah, that can fit in this category. What is it good against? Well, coach, I love it versus a 1-eye team. All right, let's make sure it's in the main bank. We'll throw it over there as well. Let's go.
How does that look? How does that translate to your call sheet? Do you have the banks on your call sheet, or do you just have them based on formation?
So our call sheet, one thing I did different this year that I really liked for visually, my practice scripts looks like my call sheet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not the full call sheet. I'm not carrying that every day out there. So what we do, right, is the bank, we connect it using VLOOKUPs. We type the number, it drops in the cell, all that fancy stuff, right? It's not that complicated. Somebody smarter than me figure that out. But anyways, the bank puts into the script, right? The script looks like my call sheet. When I pull up on Friday and I open up the call sheet, now it's just broken down a little bit differently. I do everything by play on the front. Mine's a trifold, but let's call the front. The front is by play, right? I've gone through the argument of, do you do it by formation? Do you do it by personnel? And at the end of the day, guys, I think play. Like, I want to run this. Okay, there it is, right? I don't think let's get in 2 by 2 and then run that. That's just not how my brain works, right? And then on the other side is where you have your specials, your categories, your openers, your third downs, your red zones, your short yards goal, all those things. Mine is a trifold call sheet. Again, shout out to Russ, stole it from him, made it fit for me. And I make sure that I turn to what I'm looking for, right? It's like, hey, we're ripping them in gap scheme. All right, I'm going to my gap scheme sections. Hey, it's it's 3rd and 7. I turn it real quick to the third down page, and that's all I can see.
Well, here's what I like about what you're saying. How many times have you ever felt like you're not getting enough switching of formations or personnels? Like, we go into a game and it's like, okay, in our opening script, we want to make sure to hit these formations. Well, what better way to get a different personnel presentation or formation presentation than just calling the plays you want to call? And it's like, now you don't feel the pressure of, well, we need to get in Trey, trips with a tight end. We need to see that look. Well, shoot, man, let's just call the play we want to call that we think is the best play. And then the formations are going to change based on, okay, hey, man, we ran counter, it popped. Okay, we're going to come back to it in a second, a completely different look. And you're getting.
That's where I'm at with the banks. I think, I rarely look at the call sheet unless it's situational. But I think it's because everything that I have on there, which I really like, is formation based, which I think there's some merit to that.
No, absolutely.
Because that's generally how I think. But what I may do is add on the back, which I already do for get our best players the ball plays. Like, I have that kind of banks for them. I have banks for them, right? Which makes a lot of sense. And I go through there and I make sure we hit, most of those or try to. But I think just doing it by play makes a lot of sense in conjunction with what I'm already doing. So yeah, man, that's some great insight, man. I like that. Do you find yourself calling from the call sheet and just interested in that? Like, do you look down and make the call from the call sheet, or you kind of do both where you kind of flow back and forth?
Yeah, it's probably a good flow back and forth. I mean, things are really rolling, I'm not looking at it, right? Because, everything's clicking. When things are struggling a little bit, I'm looking at it a little bit more, looking for answers. You hit those big situations and you just want to make sure, kind of like Rory on the first tee, right? He was nervous. Well, sometimes I hit a situation, I know I want this call, and maybe it's a little bit funky. It's not normally how we call something. I'm just going to read it.
Yeah,
Like
that makes sense.
let's not screw this up, right? And
Yeah.
I guess when you look at NFL play callers, now their plays are a lot longer. Like those guys are always staring at their sheet, reading off of it, and I'm like, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
You put
spread
the
left
time in
jet
to
F
put it there.
minor.
Yeah, now mine's not that long, of course, right? I
Like
can't even
Spider.
understand what. Hey, coach, let's just call that like purple. There you go, right? But
Come on, Gruden.
so yeah, spider 2Y banana with backside George reverse, and but yeah, I'm a little bit of both, for sure, a little bit of both, and I think there's a happy medium, and again, I like limiting myself when I can turn and take that call sheet from the Denny's menu look to now it's just one sided, and I can even fold that down to just the short yardage goal line package. It makes everything in my brain calm down. All right, there's your menu. If you call something off of that, you better be right. So that's kind of how mine's laid out.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I think it's time we're going to go to our favorite part of the segment. It's our 2-minute drill, rapid fire questions, and I'm going to get us going. All right, you're offensive coordinator. What's a better feeling to you? Going out every drive, executing and scoring, so you scoring 50 plus, or it comes down to a game where it falls on the offense and you execute a 2-minute drill to go and win? Which one do you think is a better feeling?
Oh man, 2-minute drill going to win. Like, I mean, that the end of a game, 2-minute drill, putting it together. There's 2 years ago we won. We were a young team. We won 4 games, and all 4 were on a last second 2-minute drive to win the game. And it's there ain't nothing like, okay, here it is. Gotta make the calls, gotta execute. So, I mean, scoring 50 and all that's wonderful, right? But, after you score about the 35th point, you're like, all right, well, this is easy, but I think putting that 2-minute drive together, that's the ticket.
All right, Coach. Yeah, I think, those 2-minute drills are crazy. All right, so what is the hardest defense to go against if you're like 10 personnel?
If you're 10,
yeah, just say 10 personnel. Like you're a 10 team. Well, you guys go with 11. You guys are 11, right? You guys
we're a lot more 11 than 10.
Say 11 then. So 11. Just talk about maybe the toughest defenses that you've kind of like. What's the hardest one?
Yeah, so my answer would be kind of twofold. Both in the 3-down world, really good 3-4 team that's great at stemming and moving is always hard, right? When the pieces are moving on a kid, it gets tough. Especially if you're more of a zone team and not a gap team. That's difficult. Or if you face a 3-3 stack team, 3 high safeties, and they have that middle safety that's a dog, and they got 3 guys down there who can take up 5-6 gaps on their own, even when you attach a tight end. That's really, really difficult, right? But in the flip set, if you got the guys who can attach 1 or 2 tight ends and you're playing a 3-down team and they can handle it, now you're really cooking. Yeah. But, if you don't have that, it's really difficult. 4-down, there's not as much variations, right? Still difficult, but there's just not as many things they can do. They don't have as many pieces out there that can move around. More static.
Yep.
Know where they're going to be.
No, that's good stuff. Definitely the stem part is something I've been looking into and finding the best way to package it and do it, because a lot of great offensive coordinators like yourself talking with the stemming, the pre-snap movement, making kids think is a big deal. You see it a lot on the back end with safety rotation or starting in a 1 high shell, getting to 2, but now you start incorporating that in the run fit and the run box, and now you're making the lineman think, and it's a big one. All right, next one, Coach. So for me, I want to know, what do you think is one drill or one thing that you do every week in practice that you'll never stop doing? Is there something that you think is the most beneficial you'll always do?
Full field blitz pickup versus the defense every week, where they, they'll do a couple of our opponents' blitzes, but I want them running what they're comfortable with. I want them playing fast. I want them getting after the quarterback, making him think, change protections, get the ball out. And, honestly, guys, a lot of times that drill is not very successful for us on paper, right? A lot of incompletions, things of that nature sometimes. but I always feel like that no matter what, that made us better. Now we go 8 out of 9, 9 out of 10, whatever we go, hell yeah, we definitely got better. But even if we go 3 out of 10 and the defense got after us, we got better. Now I have a bunch of film to teach off of, right? So full field blitz pickup versus the defense, right?
Yes.
That's the
it's great too. The kids get mad and they're like, "Well, coach, they know." Like, yes, man, that's the point. The point is not to go on 2 and get them to jump off sides. The point is to put you under the maximum amount of pressure and speed that you're going to get, so that way we get to Friday and like we can maybe handle a little bit better. I love that. We do it every Wednesday. Always back to York days.
Yeah, that's so the way we kind of do it, and we may have done this at York, but we try to like progress throughout the week. So like on Mondays, it's going to be straight 7-on-7 and straight inside run. But Tuesdays, it's going to be half line pass 7-on-7. And then Wednesdays is full team pass. That way it kind of matches the situation or the third down, the blitz area. But I like that progression. But like you said, even if it's not successful per se, like we're preparing them for the real thing. Like I don't care. I'd rather go 30% in full live blitz pickup than go 80% in 7-on-7.
Well, this may be weird. We don't do 7-on-7 anymore. We only do team pass. Mm-hmm. And I think I've gotten away from 7-on-7 because of the way that we do routes on air now. It's really like routes versus like 4 coaches. Mm-hmm. And so like we do a lot of that concept based stuff. So like we don't really need 7-on-7. So I just bring everybody in and make the quarterback feel the pocket, make the receivers like, I don't know. I like doing that, but we don't do, all the crazy blitzes until Wednesday. So we do two team pass, one on Monday, one on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is kind of our situation day anyway, but it may be kind of controversial. I don't know. We'll see. Is it my turn? Okay. My turn.
The last one.
All right. What's your favorite 2-point play, man?
Oh God!
Or just give me one. Just give me a good one.
Philly special.
I always do like the pick rub one, and like I mean that's everybody's. I want a good one.
Hey man, trips left.
We'll cut it out if you want us to. We'll cut it out.
Yeah, no, I mean, shoot, there ain't no secrets. Everything's already been done. It's just when are you going to do it? The funny part of that question is we went for 2 to win a game one time, and ball's on the 3-yard line, and I check it to see what they're lined up in, and which was really dumb because we probably would have jumped off sides, but thank God we didn't, right? And then we just called duo, and we scored to win. We just called duo, right? It's like that was a great 2-point play, right? But the ones that I think everybody runs that I think always get people is when you're using movement and throwing something back, right? We're always going to have that in where you're slipping somebody out back, right? And you've flooded a zone, and there goes somebody across. I mean, we're always going to put that in our 2-point menu, and we've had a lot of success with that. And this year we did it with a 2 quarterback set off of basically a jet action where we didn't toss it, we handed the jet sweep to a quarterback. He bubbled back, the tight end fell down and ran the climb back over there, and he was wide open. So we're gonna have some form of that. And 2-point plays are fun because you can really get creative and you get one shot. So throw it.
One kind of like that, coach, is start 2x2 with your tight end, jet motion the tight end's receiver to make it trip snub, and have your tight end like block 1,001, 1,002 like pass pro, and then quarterback half rolls, and then he just leaks into the end zone. Because if they're a man red zone team, they're going to run with motion, and the guy who's playing man on the tight end is going to get bored, or either he's going to pressure rush and tight end's going to be wide open.
How about this? We ran one this year. And it was just 4th down and like 2 or 3. We didn't want to kick it, and so it's kind of like a 2-point play. It's the old double rub, kind of slip the receiver in from the other side. Well, our quarterback, he's rolling out, misses the guy, like he's wide open. Anyway, next week got another big game. Like, all right, well, these guys certainly saw this guy wide open off of this play. They're gonna cover it.
Right.
So we call the throwback, like you fake rub and then it's the little throwback. No, dude, the guy's like wide open in the end zone. Quarterback doesn't care. He just throws the throwback, and you're like, man, sometimes you over game plan things,
Right.
And
again,
it's like you give them too much credit, like you said before. So
Yeah,
just funny.
they're kids. They're kids. Even NFL players screwed up, right? So sometimes don't overcomplicate it.
That's right. Well,
Well,
man,
man,
this has been
Coach.
fun.
Yep. Hey man, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Pro Quick Draw, man. Like it's not only made us a better coach, it's created a lot of relationships, and that's how we met Coach Katz. We always talk about the promo code that you can click in the bio, and it's still there, still an opportunity. And this is just one of the faces of Pro Quick Draw that, man, let me tell you something. If I ever have a question, I'll blow this guy up and he's back to me within 3 minutes. I don't know if his admin know that as a teacher, but man, he is on it. And Coach, my last question is, hey man, are you making the full switch to Mac or are you going to stay Windows? Where are you at?
Yeah, no, I'm going to stay Windows, or the school I'm going to out at Alpharetta. They're a PC Windows school, but I got my Mac right here though, so I'm kind of dabbling for you. But
I'm thinking about making the switch. I'm thinking about going PowerPoint and making the switch.
Yeah.
A lot of slides,
Macs
but I think it may be worth it.
Yeah, so
both are great. I mean, both are great.
Both are great. Both have their pros. All pros. Some have a little stronger pros than other.
Yeah.
But no, man, I gotta stick with my OG PC.
Are you Visio or PowerPoint?
PowerPoint. I used to be Visio, but with our play editor and PowerPoint, it's
that's why I'm going to switch over.
That's why I made the switch. I'm trying to get him to switch to the play editor.
And Visio is getting, if you don't have it, it gets expensive, and Microsoft's not really updating it anymore. And as I kind of say, right, Bill Gates is still rocking and rolling here, and so Microsoft and PowerPoint ain't going nowhere. So I'm all PowerPoint all the time. It's just easier.
Yeah, more accessible.
Yep.
Well, Coach, man, we really appreciate it, man. Like Coach Martin said, we're thrilled to have you on. Can't wait for our listeners to hear it, and we wish you guys the best of luck at the new school, and hopefully we see you around before AFCA. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so, man. If not, I'll be following you guys and following you on social media and seeing how everything is going. At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Wins and losses are going to fade real quick, but we build these relationships. That's what can take us to places we couldn't dream of.
No doubt, Coach. Well said. All right, guys. Well, don't forget about Team Builder. We have the promo for them in the show notes. Reach out to them. Thanks to Coach Katz and Pro Quick Draw. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.